We're live at 5, or a little after. It's 5:04. Speaking of 4:44, this is Casey Peak. Dun, 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 and I'm Magic Brad Goodham, the man, the myth, the legend. We're doing something a little bit different today. I don't know what I'm doing.
I showed up to the studio to get us ready for the show, and I saw he had this.
My little table here. So the topic I wrote, it was magic, manifesting, and metaphysics via psychedelic experiences. Ooh.
That's a lot.
And I also saw that on the StreamYard platform that they're having difficulties with YouTube, so this might not be going on YouTube. I don't know, but I think it is. You got to see all three of those on the right-hand side there, ... So I don't know what to talk about other than I was going to do some magic, and there's a routine that I've been working on that, remember at my Rhythmia experience, I talked about the spectrum of light and the guy's head disappearing because it was outside of the frequency that I could possibly see.
Yeah.
And then because I was sitting with the medicine, different vibrations came in. So different things manifest.
Yeah.
And I got a little routine that I had developed about that concept.
Nice.
So it has to do, you remember what the crystal radio is?
Yes.
They used to be popular when I was in high school. You actually use a little crystal and you make yourself a radio.
Yeah.
With batteries, and somehow you put this little pin in the right spot on the crystal and it'll pick up radio stations. That was a fancy dancy little kid's thing. And I remember we talked before about, I went to that Deepak Chopra thing, and he talked about in this little space right here, all these different vibrations and frequencies are coming in with the police band and your cell phone, my cell phone, people's pagers, pacemakers, Bluetooth, all that information is all in one spot, which is fascinating to me.
Yeah.
He said that all you have to do, all the information is already here. It's a matter of us tuning into it to pick up on it. And that concept kind of blew my mind. And that's kind of probably what happened at that ayahuasca. I pronounced it so that the algorithms will pick it up. That's probably that's what I got in that situation when I saw the guy's head disappear.
Yeah.
And I saw the DMT beings and entities.
Yeah, you just were put in the right frequency.
I was tuned in properly, and now I can see what is, like, in this moment in time, in an infinite universe, infinite time, there's probably beings and entities that are in this room right now. In fact, it's probably full of them.
It's possible.
Packed full of that being energy, and you just got to tune into it. And that's where a person could go crazy, I guess, if you tuned into everybody all at once. And then
that'd be a little uncomfortable.
Yeah, the entire universe of eternity is all in this one room at the same time.
Yeah, that would definitely change the way that you felt about things. That's for sure.
So where do you want to start?
Well, I'm curious to watch your routine here. I kind of want to see it.
What if I should start with the routine, or if I should warm up first with some other stuff?
Is where I'm sitting okay, or do I need to move to more in front of you?
This is fine.
Okay.
A good magician doesn't care where you sit.
Okay, good.
You can sit right behind, but you won't be able to see much. But you're just keeping track of things. So in my opinion, there's like kind of two different kinds of magic. There's the woo-woo magic, where people are actually doing energy work and making things manifest, either psychedelically or hallucinogenically. And then there's sleight of hand kind of stuff where the coin disappeared, but it didn't really disappear.
Sure.
So there's two different schools of thought, like bending a spoon. Is it possible to actually bend a physical spoon using mental energy? Some people think, yeah. And other people say, no, you can't bend physics unless you're some kind of god, like Jesus walked on water. But some people say, I saw a guy do it at a party and he was really bending it. And I go, no, he wasn't. He bought that routine from a guy by the name of Derek Dingle. And not Derek Dingle, but I can't remember the guy's name. So there's two different schools of thought on that. That's part of the reason that I went to Rhythmia, because I knew that once I took the medicine, there's no way I can do anything about it. I can't trick anything, because now I've got to deal with the medicine's going to do what it wants, or what's best for me, I guess. Right?
Yeah.
What are you saying?
That's ayahuasca for you. Ayahuasca will, yeah, it definitely does what's best for you.
So let me just do this routine then. I will roll up my sleeves so there's no chicanery going on.
Of course there's chicanery going on. That's the point.
So that you can't think that there is. Otherwise, it went up his sleeve or whatever. In fact, first I'll start with a routine that I do. You've heard of David Copperfield, right?
Yes.
He's the guy that flies around like Peter Pan. He does illusions, and illusions are different than magic, in my opinion.
Yeah,
Because
I like illusions though.
Like a mirage. You're driving down the road, and you
Yeah.
see water in front of you, and the sun's out, but it looks like water, but it's not water, but it looks like
right.
water.
That's just the sun reflecting off of the heat on the ground. Yeah.
The illusion of water. So I'm going to do this with some dental floss. This isn't really mine. It's actually rental floss. That's a bad joke. This is actually mental floss. Okay, here's the illusion part. Tell me if this looks like it breaks. Did that look like it broke?
Yeah.
Two little pieces, a long piece and a short piece. So if I break it again, it actually sounds like it breaks.
Yep.
So what I'm doing right now is I'm creating the audible illusion of it breaking by cracking my knuckle.
Okay.
You believe that?
Possible.
No.
No.
It's BS. But
it looks like you're breaking it.
It creates you. But do you think it was an audible illusion? So it looked like
no, it looks like you broke it, and
it does look broken.
I was definitely hearing. You can hear a snap on this side of it, just so you know. Like,
so these little pieces I take, and the perspiration of my finger will actually weave the little pieces back together in a little ball.
That part I don't believe.
And then I can take the little ball. I take the little ball and I stick it on here like this, and it'll look like one piece. That's the illusion. Does that look like it's one piece?
It does.
Here's where the magic comes in. Ooh, ah, hey, isn't that cool?
Nice.
It worked, which proves today is the luckiest day of my life. So that's an example of the difference between illusion and magic in my perception, but that's not about this. This is the crystal radio thing.
Okay.
I made this little stand. It's got a little cover on it. And inside this little tube are these little coins. And this crystal.
I hope you can all see that really well.
You can see the coins.
Yeah.
Okay, good enough. And then there's this little cylinder, and I got this little piece of cork. You kind of can't see the little cork, but it's just a little sliver of cork. And that goes on the tube, and then it shows that you just roll right through the tube. See?
Yeah, and the tube is empty on this side of it.
Yeah,
it's just a leather tube, and there is stitching in order to make it a tube. It's basically a strip of leather, and then there's stitching makes it into a tube.
And then the little scarf goes inside and plugs up the hole, just like that. Now, the crystal. And we gather the 4 coins. So we've got 2, 3, and 4. And the little crystal goes in here like this. And it assimilates the matter of the physical coin.
Okay.
So now the coin is now inside the crystal. The waves, the frequency is inside the crystal.
Okay.
Make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. So let's do this again. One, two, three. 1, 2, 3. The crystal.
Mm-hmm.
There's 1, 2. This goes in there, and it assimilates the coin. You can't see it in there, but it's in there.
Nice.
Tap, tap, tap. Now, some people think that magicians, when they're born, they have this little invisible trap door in their hand like that. See that little trap door?
Right.
I think you can actually pass a coin right through the hand like that. That's not possible. You can't really do that. So that's just a distraction. To assimilate the next coin, just like that.
Nice.
Bap, bap, bap. One more. This is the last one. This one goes here. And no, we'll go here. And there like that. Come on. There it goes. Now, if this all worked right. Ta-da!
Nice.
That's the cylinder and coin trick. A little piece of cork. And the coins. Now you get them back. 1, 2, 3, 4. You can almost see them. And you can hear them come back just like that. And a little piece of cork.
Sweet.
Ta-da!
Nice.
So, you probably didn't see it from a distance there, but close up it looks kind of good, and it's really good for like 4 or 5 feet away.
You can see MT.
MT. A little tube.
Nice.
So that's my little routine that I've been working on. It's actually it's a sleight of hand routine. It's not a real witchcraft or anything like that, but it's a lot of work.
Yeah.
There's a lot of work that goes into that and remembering every little thing. And if it was real magic, you could just assimilate the coin into the crystal and poof, it just happens, right? But
right.
No, you got to do some manipulative stuff, and I made some flaws there. We'll probably see them on the video later, maybe not because it's so far away, but you're closer. So what do you want to talk about now?
I don't know. That was pretty cool. That was a fun routine. So that's a new one you've been working on?
I've been working on it for a long time, and it's one of these things. It's kind of like you forget the next move, so you can't remember. It's kind of like remembering the words to a song. All of a sudden, you can't remember the words to the song.
Okay.
So you can't remember certain moves. What came first, the chicken or the egg kind of thing. But I saw a guy do this on Penn and Teller's Fool Us, Eric Mead.
Sweet.
And I saw him do this routine, and it blew my mind. I go, wow, wait a second. And being in magic for a long time, you can kind of pick up on certain things.
Sure.
But then there's certain things that happen, and you just go, what the heck just happened? And rarely do I get that now because I've been doing it since I was like 4 or 5. I can usually find things. But when he did this routine, I thought, what? There's some things in there. Because it's using some equipment that sort of camouflages the other stuff, if that makes sense. Maybe?
Yeah, only because I know a little bit about sleight of hand. I know what you mean.
But kind of like in music, sometimes you're playing 2 strings at the same time.
Right. And
it
makes
creates
it sound different.
Totally different sound.
Yeah.
So if you can do 2 effects at the same time, you're going to get a bizarre result.
Yeah.
And when I saw this routine, I thought, how the hell did he do that? I didn't know that it was this difficult to do. So I started working on it anyways, and it took some time, and I'm starting to hammer it out. I'll probably try and find some easier ways to do stuff.
Well, it really seems like a simple routine, right? I mean, if you do it well, it seems like a simple routine.
Yeah,
but
it seems like actually, just 4 coins and all these little things. And that's what a lot of people don't understand about doing the magic stuff. It's different than when you're juggling. You see the guy throwing the balls in the air, and that's what happens.
Right.
Even ventriloquism, you don't see the guy's lips moving, so you know that that's what he's doing. And with magic, you see the magician put the coin in his hand. That's not what he did. He did something under the table, something totally different than what actually happened.
Either he did something under the table, or it was a different hand at work, but you were distracted by this hand.
Or even something like you put the girl in the box.
Yeah. Did the girl go in the box?
Maybe he didn't put her in the box. Maybe she went somewhere else.
Right. The hands that you see might not actually be from inside the box.
Yeah. So when you're watching this, the magician has to think inside of your head, what are you seeing from your point of view?
Sure.
Because I got to do all this stuff behind me to make it look like I'm doing what I'm doing, but that's not what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And so that's what fascinates me about magic. It's different than all the other arts, all the dance and music and juggling or acrobatics or all that different stuff.
Right. Yeah, the skill set's amazing. I loved it. Whenever I was a kid, I used to play with it. I learned how to do some coin tricks, and I learned a handful of card tricks. I bought a couple of special decks of cards to like learn a couple of different moves and just how to do it. Like I learned how to look for marked cards. I learned how card shaving worked. I learned about
well, those are some good things to know about for like when you end up people getting that are going to Las Vegas or something.
Yeah.
Or even like I tell Monica, like Monica feels real comfortable with me when you're walking downtown Minneapolis.
Sure.
Because I'm aware.
Yeah.
And you can teach people to be aware of things. Just like when you're walking down the mall and you're looking in the window, some people think you're looking at the suit or the purse or the dress or whatever. No, I'm looking at the reflection.
Right.
I want to know who the hell's behind me and coming around the corner and stuff. So I'm looking at the reflection to see what's going on that direction.
I get that. Growing up where I grew up in the time and place I grew up, yep, that's very much the way that I am too.
Like, it's interesting how when we do this thing, we always get off on tangents on different things. But I remember being out in LA, and a friend of mine that came from the hood, so to speak, when he'd pull in behind a car at a red light, he wouldn't get close to the car. He'd keep like 5 feet.
Yeah.
Why is that? And why? How come you do that? He goes, because I don't want to get pinned in.
Right.
Because there might be somebody behind me that's going to pin me in, and it's a team. So you got to be aware of that. So somebody that pulls right up on somebody, it's not a good idea if you're in that kind of place because they're looking to jack your car.
Yeah. There was an old trucker hijack routine that they used to do. And they ended up doing an insurance fraud routine with it for a while. But the car hijack routine, it's really simple. So basically it takes 3 people, so 3 different cars. And you have one car that kind of goes behind the truck while the truck's moving. They go to one side of the road, so the truck is over near the shoulder, right? And then what you do is you have the second car comes in and boxes them in like this. Then what the third car does is swings from behind this other car, swings around, and cuts in really quick, and it's going too slow. Like, so the truck either has to slam on their brakes or they run into the person in front of them. And this is where the whole thing comes in. Because if they swerve to the side, right, then they hit railing, and then the car behind them potentially ends up in a wreck. They slam on their brakes too hard, the car behind can run into them. If they swerve that way, they hit the other car. So they're completely boxed in, and it's a routine. They do that. The people who get injured, right, can go after the insurance. It's an insurance fraud thing.
Right.
Then if the truck just successfully stops, they can still hijack the truck. They can still go and take the goods out of the back of the truck.
So if you can't get your insurance thing, you can.
So the routine was originally developed for hijacking trucks. It was originally developed. They would go and they would do that, and then it would basically just force the truck to respond in a way that causes the truck to stop. And then they would come out with a gun or whatever as soon as that they weren't looking, and they would put the driver on the ground, and then they would empty out the back of the truck. Usually it was cigarettes or something like that, right? And then they would put the driver then into the back of the truck. They'd close the truck, and then they'd all drive off.
So I'm not going to ask how you know this. Just hearsay.
No, there was a big thing about it in the 90s. They actually told on the news how it worked. They wanted people to be aware of what was happening.
And that's one of the reasons when people say, I see people on these social media things, you should arrest those people, put them in jail. And I'm an advocate of don't put them in jail because it's college. That's where they learn this stuff because they have nothing else to do all day long except for talk about ways to jack trucks.
Right. Yeah. So it was crazy, but like, yeah, I mean, that kind of stuff used to just be so common in the LA area. There was They would talk about like hijacking trucks, and like they would do it to cars too, like the insurance fraud part of it.
Mm-hmm.
They would do that to cars, but trucks usually have better insurance. So that's why they would go after the trucks.
And there's an alternative. If the insurance thing doesn't work, you can boost it back.
Right. And that was, yeah. Yeah, the routine works much better on trucks anyways, because a fully loaded truck can't stop. They can't stop as well. So you just have to know, like, they really just have to have an idea of what they're hijacking. Because if you go and you're hijacking a truck full of a bunch of electronics, it's going to be much heavier than a truck full of cigarettes. So you want to know that, because it gives you an idea of how hard you're going to get hit.
Yeah, you don't want to get hurt. You just want to get wounded.
But yeah, it was in the 90s. They were talking about the insurance fraud side of it. I mean, that routine was actually made back in, like, you ever seen the movie Goodfellas?
No, but I heard of it.
Yeah, so it was back in that day, which is basically Goodfellas is like, with 1940s, 50s, 60s. So they were doing truck hijacking around that time frame.
Let's do another illusion.
Yeah.
Let's do something else. This is something that it's one of the oldest tricks in the book.
Oldest tricks in the book. I love how people say that all the time.
Oldest illusions.
Oh, is it the cup? The ball and cup?
This is the cups and the balls. This uses 3 solid gold cups plated in brass to protect the gold.
Nice. To protect the gold.
That one fits through that one, and that one fits through that one, which is no big deal, but it looks good. Okay? Along with it, I got these.
I love the way you just did that.
Three little red balls, and I live in Minnesota, so I got little knit sweaters on them, little sweaters on them.
Yeah, that way they don't get cold.
Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly. So here's what's going to happen. I'm going to take each ball like this. It's going to go up underneath the table. It's going to jump through the table and under the cup just like that, okay?
Okay.
So this is ball number 1.
Okay.
Ball number 1 from here to here. This is ball number 2 because it's second. This is ball number 3 from here to here. There we go. Now, if this worked out right, there should be 1 under each cup, right?
Right.
Boom, boom, boom. And there is deja vu.
Nice.
We'll try this again. That's number 1. That's number 2. That's number 3. That's number 1. That's number 2. That's number 3.
So just so everybody knows at home, like, a lot of people know how this trick is done, but it doesn't matter if you really understand how the trick is done. Watching somebody who's masterful at it, it's just something to behold. Like, if you ever get the chance to watch it, you should. And if you are trying to watch it and you're at a, Amtrak bus stop or something like that, probably the wrong place to do it. That guy's going to rip you off.
Oh, you're referring to the 3-card Monte thing that they do on the sidewalk in New York and all that stuff.
They do it with cups too, but
sure,
yeah.
Sure.
I did end up watching a gentleman do that one time at the Greyhound bus station in San Diego. He was doing a cup routine, and I knew exactly how it was done. I didn't care. I was enjoying watching him.
Well, the reason they like the 3-card Monte is because if they get busted, they can just split and leave the cardboard behind and the cards behind. They don't care. They just take off.
Right. Well, he was doing it. He was doing it with little whatchamacallit. What do they call those cups? Dixie cups. Okay. He was doing it Dixie cups.
Okay, sure.
Yeah, so he wouldn't have cared. Yeah. But it was masterfully done.
All the little carny tricks.
Yeah.
So he hit it there because there are people that'll buy this thing in a little magic kit or something for their child, and they go, "Oh, that's how it works." But when you start getting into it, there's things that can happen where, okay, if you know how it works, that's one thing, but if you can do it, it's a different deal. Because I know how a backflip works.
Right. Exactly. Yeah, exactly. I know how to do a round off. That doesn't mean I can do one.
I know exactly how a triple gainer works. Okay, so we got 1, 2, 3. Now we do this, and they jump. Ba-dum-bump. It worked, which proves today it's the luckiest day of my life. You know what? I think there's too many cups. Too many cups. I'll get rid of a cup, leaving us with just 2.
All right.
We'll just use 2. That's 1. That's 2. That's 3. If I snap, it'll jump over there like that. Ba-dum-bump. Did it work? Yes, it did. Bujade, that's number 1, that's number 2. Boop, boop. Last time, this is the last one. Just like that.
Nice.
Now I also go up instead of across. So if you do it this way, 1, 2, 3. Now if I don't snap my fingers, they don't come to the top. You just gotta snap your fingers, they come to the top like that. See?
Nice.
So that's 1. That's 2. It worked. Last one, just like this. Too many cups. Let's get rid of another cup, just with just 1. We take the ball just like this from here to here. That's 1. A little faster. And now faster than speed of light. Ready? Just like that. That's 1. That's 2. That's 3. Okay, you're not supposed to repeat magic, because when you repeat it, then people get more educated and it's harder and harder to fool them.
Sure.
I'm going to give you a second chance to catch me, okay?
All right.
This is what I did. I took the first ball like this, I threw it in my hand, and I popped it up through the table, and it went inside the cup, right?
Yep.
Yes, okay. So that's number 1. That's how I did that. I went from here, right there, so it should be under there. Same thing happens here, from here to there. If all works out right, yes, it does. That's number 2. And then number 3, just do that. And now the chicanery is done, then they go back under the cups.
Right.
Except they're 8 months pregnant. That's 1, that's 2, that's 3.
Nice.
We're in the big money now. So that's the routine that I've been doing for a long, long time. My friend Dave Stahl bought me a set of cups when I was a kid. And I've always liked it. It's one of the oldest things they see in the old Egyptian pyramids.
Yeah.
Pictures of cups and balls, and they think that it goes way back to biblical times.
Nice. So it really is one of the oldest tricks.
Yeah.
Is there any other one that's that old?
The Chinese linking rings is another one that's supposedly very, very old.
See, I like the Chinese linking rings. It's really fascinating. I love watching it.
It's interesting because in the Chinese linking rings, the only thing that happens is the ring will link to the other ring and then it unlinks to the other ring. That's all it does.
Right.
But you can do a whole routine that might be 10 minutes long of it linking and unlinking, and it can be very entertaining.
Linking, unlinking, wrapping it around you, and
all that stuff.
Yeah.
You can get elaborate with it.
Making one float and then linking it. I've seen that one before.
You saw it float? I do one where I bounce it. I bounce it on the ground and it bounces up, but I never seen it float. That's a good idea.
Yeah, I saw one where they did that one time. They spun the ring on their hands, and then they removed their hand, and it continued to stay there. And then they brought the other link in, and went think, and they caught the ring.
That's wild.
Yeah.
That sounds like there's a guy by the name of Losander. That sounds like something he'd do.
It's possible. I have no idea who the guy was. I was lucky enough in Southern California. You used to get a lot of this. I mean, now it's almost all in Las Vegas. But whenever I was a kid, there was a lot of that still in Southern California. I could just go walk down. It wasn't even Venice Beach. I could just go walk on any of the piers where there was a lot of people, and you'd see routines going all the time.
Right, and then there's the
Magic Castle
Magic Castle in Hollywood, the
Mhm.
Academy of Magical Arts, which is like kind of globally recognized magic thing.
Yep. And it used to be, it's not this way anymore, because if you go to like Disneyland or anything like that, these people have to be working for the park. But it used to be that you would go to these parks and there was always people performing routines and stuff.
Right. And then they just started to take control of it. And that's what happened in Venice Beach. They started making buskers have permits and things. And all of a sudden they said, hell with this, and started moving up to Santa Monica.
Right.
They didn't like the rules.
The busking permit thing is really funny because, you know, like whenever I was on city council in Crystal, right nearby here, it was very interesting. I ended up learning a lot about the busking and a lot about how that whole permit thing got started. And it kind of took over the world for a little while, you know, as far as like, we permit our buskers here, because the pitch was, the reason why they did it was because of pickpocketers, that they would basically have people's attention, and then somebody else in the routine would be going and stealing your money. Of course, you know, that's as old as time and as old as the cups.
That's like the 3-card money thing.
Right.
You don't realize there's 5 people on the team.
Right. Exactly. But that's my point. My point is that there's no way to get away from it, because in the middle of magic routines, like at circuses and things like that, not as commonly now, but still, if you go to places where they're performing routines, that can happen. Not that it does that often, but it can. So it doesn't really stop that kind of theft from happening. So one thing I did here in Crystal was I talked to them about busking and about why it was that they were making it illegal. And they were like, they were talking about that, how it was really all about discouraging, the illegal panhandlers who weren't really panhandling. They weren't really busking. They were really picking people's pockets. Right. That's what they were trying to do.
Their intentions were ill-intentioned people.
But everybody agreed who was on the council, and everybody agreed in the local area. They were all talking about the fact that it's basically removing that, that ability for people to do was actually killing a lot of that culture. And not the culture of the theft, the culture of doing routines.
Sure, street performance.
Right? Street performances. Mm-hmm. So here in Crystal, Minnesota, they actually have all of that removed. Like, you can busk, and they don't consider it to be a crime or anything. You can do it at any.
See, that's the smarter way to do it. There's a saying that keep your enemies or your friends close and your enemies closer.
Yes.
So if you invite these people, they don't need to know that you're watching them very closely.
Right.
So you got all these people that are permitted, and then there's other people that aren't permitted, and you kind of get to watch that person. You know what they're doing, and you can have your cuffs ready to arrest the person because you know what they're going to do.
Right.
That's one of the things that happens, like in the magic stuff. There's a one ahead type thing, where I'm ahead of the spectator, already prepared, and they're still thinking about the thing that's in present moment. It's kind of like chess.
Yeah.
I did the move. I know what I'm going to be doing in about 3 moves. I'm ahead of the game. And if cities understood that, they could allow the buskers to come out, and they can keep an eye on the ones that they trust.
Right.
And then they can keep 2 eyes on the ones that they don't.
See, and that's my understanding, is it's moving back towards that direction. Like, whenever I was doing that on the city council, we talked to other councils and other different people, and they were talking about that, how they kind of wanted to move back that direction, because they inadvertently basically killed busking in the United States. Like, busking was just not very common in the United States for a while. It's still incredibly common in Europe, but in the United States, it was virtually dead, unless you went to the biggest cities like New York or Chicago or LA.
And some places like in Paris and stuff, they have a lot of buskers that are pickpocketers. That's their team. So I think it's important to be able to watch them and because if a person that's got scrupulous intentions, unscrupulous intentions, what the hell does scrupulous mean? Not good intentions, thievery intentions. If they're not pure, you can sort of set them up to be caught.
Yeah.
And then maybe educating some of the public to realize that when you're doing this 3-card money thing, make sure you know about some of the things that they're doing. When some guy starts getting mad and overly emotional about, I'm putting 100 on this one, and throws the money down, you're probably being set up. They're setting you up with some emotional kind of stuff. I'm going with him. He knows what he's doing. So if you understand that kind of thing, I even thought about doing a consultation kind of thing for people from the city councils and stuff to understand the psychology behind crooks.
Well, my understanding in old Hollywood, I mean, this is before my time, but in old Hollywood, that is actually how they ended up getting rid of a lot of the unscrupulous people during that time frame, was that they hired magicians to watch these routines that were going on the street, and then just basically these people would walk up and down the street, and they would say, oh, that guy's just really good. He knows what he's doing. He's making all of his money off of that. This person over here, though, there's a team of 4 of them, and that lady that's walking around behind all of them, oh yeah, see how she's going in their bags? Yeah, you need to go arrest all 4 of them. Oh, where's the fourth one? Oh, that's the guy who's sitting over there who looks like he's just panhandling next to them.
Yeah. The guy that's winking all the time. Yeah, but a lot of people don't realize that. It's interesting, like the idea behind magic, or we wouldn't even use magic, but deception.
Yeah.
People that know what they're doing, when you see someone cheating in Las Vegas, he's probably not like looking at other people's cards, but the guy over there with the drink and stuff.
Yeah.
And he's got some kind of monocle on. It's actually like a telescope when he's the one looking at the other cards.
Right.
And then, you tip your glass twice where it's an ace, and you tap your toe if it's a jack. And
how are they going to catch people doing this anymore? I mean, they have glasses now. You could genuinely need glasses, but they have glasses now where I can put them on, and literally I get a HUD that only I can see. Nobody else can see it.
They've actually got eye drops.
They have eye drops?
Yes, you don't even need glasses.
I knew that they did it on that. They're expensive, but I know contacts. Heard of that one. I know for earpieces, you don't need to put anything in your ear anymore. They have literally, it's a dot, and you put it right there, and the sound goes through the mastoid bone right here.
Right. Yeah, there's some interesting stuff.
Yeah. It's fascinating. There's so many cool things that are out there right now.
Well, that's what's interesting about the magic too, is you can discover how it works, but then there's another way of making it work. And the story that I use, remember the old time when they used to cut a lady in half and everybody goes, oh, you got two ladies in there. Because it's a big giant box and you figure there's two people in there. Then all of a sudden they figure out how to do it with a thin box. So it could only be one. Then they figure out a way to do it with a clear box. So you can see the person in there. And now they're doing it without a box. So
that's true. Yeah, they have that one with the big saw that comes down and it looks like the person gets sawed in half, and then they do the flashing lights, and then everybody goes, ah!
Yeah, so there's always a way to get creative and make things happen without old ways. It's interesting to me. I don't perform that much anymore, but just the concept of magic is just kind of fascinating to me, that you can basically do anything with it. You're creating an illusion, so you can do anything.
Who's your favorite current performer? That's probably a loaded question, but I'm going to ask it anyways.
Favorite current performer? God, it isn't a loaded question. I don't even know if there's... I really don't like the new performers. A lot of it is because of this video stuff where they're really doing stuff with one camera lens.
Sure.
It's really not an audience.
Yeah, or they're manipulating the camera footage in order to make it look like
they kind of do that kind of stuff, and
I don't like that. That kind of deception doesn't really impress me. It's not even an illusion at that point. It's just editing.
Well, like there's this one guy that does these things where he'll like jump inside of a car. The car will be driving. He'll just jump towards the car, and all of a sudden he's inside the car. It's kind of bizarre, weird. It's all camera editing stuff.
Right.
I saw one this morning. A guy had a ping pong ball. He had a ping pong ball, and he kind of did this, and then all of a sudden the ping pong ball was a big ball, and he's holding. You go to pick it up, and it's a big ball, just because of the distance of perception.
Yeah.
But it was edited somehow, so that all of a sudden he's got this big ball in there. He's got this big, and it looks bizarre, but you can't do it in real life.
Right.
So who is my favorite performer? I really don't think I don't have one.
Okay.
The most recent icon performer, I guess, is David Copperfield.
Sure.
They're really
there's been a couple of other ones, I think.
The America's Got Talent and Fool Us and all that kind of stuff has brought some others in there.
Yeah, there was a couple of good ones on Penn and Teller's Fool Us. I enjoyed that.
Shin Lim, an Asian guy, he did some amazing things.
That name sounds familiar. I would probably have to be reminded of what his routine was. But yeah.
But there's some people that, like, some of the stuff you can do and it's all mechanical gimmicks to it.
Sure.
And then there's the ability to just be smooth with things.
Yeah.
My favorite is Lance Burton. He does this routine where he's producing doves and vanishing candles, and it's an old, I I can't remember the type of music, but Victorian type stuff. And he's wearing the tux tails and a big lamp post and things. And the way he produces those birds, because he's got to get them somewhere, right?
Right.
You can't see it. It's really, really, really smooth.
Yeah, I have seen routines of Lance Burton on film. Like I've never seen him in person, but I've definitely seen it.
He's a really nice guy too.
Cool.
I met him once, and then he was on a Zoom thing that we did for some magicians about a year ago.
Nice.
There's a guy that actually studied at McAllister. His name is Mac King, and he's in Las Vegas. I like him. He's funny. He does this one routine. It's a quick little bit. He's got this big, what do you call it, guinea pig? A big fuzzy.
Sure.
Got this big guinea pig sitting on this table. And all of a sudden, he scoops it up and goes, and he eats the guinea pig, and it's just gone. It's a real live guinea pig. You see him running around sniffing on stuff, and he scoops it up, and it's just gone.
And it just looks like
I'll share the secret part with you after.
Okay.
But it's so... Yeah. It's like, whoa, what did you do?
That's funny. Yeah, so for a while I was into like watching a lot of these magic shows where they would show like routines. There were some that were live that I enjoyed, but the ones where they're all pre-recorded, even if they say pre-recorded before a live audience, I don't usually like those. And the whole reason why is, I'll use Chris Angel as an example. So there's one where he walks on water and does the whole Jesus routine, right? And so the whole way that they do it is they basically just use like a little like sheet of like almost like glass that's like right at the surface of the water.
And
so
everybody kind of knows that.
And everybody knows that, but the way they edit it, yeah. So they're like going and they're showing it and everything else, and they edit it and everything else. You would think it's all happening exactly the same time, but it's not. The audience reaction is happening at a completely separate time from whenever you're witnessing what's happening. They actually do 2 takes. They do one for the show, one for the audience, and then they do a third, which has no one there. So they can like perfect like various different things of the routine. And they stitch it all together to make it look like it's all one take, but it's not, and that's pretty sad.
Well, that's even stuff that's happening. Like you see people on AG's, America's Got Talent, and Penn and Teller Fool Us and stuff, and you can just see if you look at it with a critical like editor's eye, you can see certain areas that were the director says, cut to camera 2, because there's certain things that are happening that he knows that are going to be happening, so you got to cut to camera 2 so they don't see that on the TV.
Right. So they do that on Fool Us too?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
No editing, but it's just
it's not editing, it's just done
camera
very
angles.
well. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, when it's live, you can just know when to cut to camera 2.
Yeah.
Because you know what's going on. A good director will be able to see that kind of stuff. You're getting a reaction from someone, get the girl in the front row, cut to camera 3.
Right. You had a friend who was on Fool Us, right? Who actually did really well.
A couple of them. Derek Hughes, who's a local here. Kevin Hall is another local. Suzanne, she's a performer that performs out at Lord Fletcher's and 2 other restaurants out on the west side.
Oh, cool.
Like Coney or something like that.
I've heard of Lord Fletcher's. I haven't been there.
She's a restaurant performer. We should go out there sometime. It's a nice place on Lake Minnetonka.
Yeah.
And Suzanne, she's out there. And who else? Sean Paul, the guy that I did some work for in Eureka Springs, Arkansas.
Yeah, was he the one that you helped with his routine?
Yes, he's working on a new thing, like a spirit cabinet thing, where where all the stuff goes flying around, and the girl's all tied up to a chair, and all of a sudden things are flying around. They pull the curtain back, and she's still tied to the chair. And
old spiritualist type routine.
Yeah, she's in there, and the things are flying around and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, spiritualist routines are really fascinating. I used to read about Edgar Cayce back in the day, or Edgar Casey, depending on how you want to pronounce it.
Right.
Yeah, I used to watch stuff about like some of the people that were related around him. He himself didn't have any weird routines like that. His big shtick was predicting, and he really did go into trances. He would go into these trances where they would like try to stick needles. They would like test the trance. They wanted to actually see if he was really in a trance, because in the Western world, we were just not familiar with trances and trance states as well as they were in other areas of the world. So whenever he would go in the middle of the state, they would be like, "Hey, can we like test things on you?" And he was dumb enough to say yes. Well, they would stick needles that long, all the way through his arm.
Well, that's what's interesting about David Blaine, is he does real stuff.
Yeah.
That regurgitation of a frog.
Yeah.
He's actually regurgitating that frog.
I fully believe that. That's a geek thing.
He pokes an ice pick through his hand.
Yeah.
He's really poking an ice pick through his hand. He just knows where to do it.
Yeah, so those are circus routines.
Yeah. Well, some of the circus stuff is fake.
Some of it is, but there's ones that aren't. Like, I mean, sword swallowing is actually can be sword swallowing. There's also the geeks that just eat random things. Like, that's real. There are some geeks that actually will eat glass.
Eating glass, there's a technique around that. They really are eating the glass, but there's a technique that you have to do so that it's safer.
Yeah.
And
safer. I love the way you said
well,
that.
There's always the possibility of you screwing up and getting a piece of glass in the wrong way in your throat or something, or like the walking on glass or the walking on coals. There's techniques for all that stuff. Breaking bricks.
I've done the walking on coals.
Yeah, and they instructed you how to do it without.
They instruct you how to do it, and you have to move at a good pace, steady pace, good pace. You wait until there's a nice light ash on everything, and then you walk across it, and you don't stop, because if you stop, you burn.
Right.
If you go, "Hey, look, I'm doing something," you step extra hard or you stomp around or anything like that, you're going to get burns. But if you glide across it, just like you're walking across like rice paper or something like that, like you're something delicate, and you just stride along it, you're moving so fast it doesn't burn your feet.
Yeah, and it's a psychological thing of not having the fear. Because like with the martial arts thing, people trying to break bricks or break boards, sometimes they stop because they're scared it's going to hurt.
Oh yeah, that's
the worst thing to do. You got to go through, and then it's inevitable that the brick or the board is going to break, because it can't not break.
Right. Yeah, the question is if you're going to break your hand at the same time, which a lot of those people do.
And you will if you do it. If you stop, that's probably what'll happen.
Yeah.
But if you just go through, it's a different story. But
I've done board breaking. I never did brick breaking. I knew some people who did. My father actually, whenever he was studying martial arts, there's actually an old newspaper clipping from Santa Fe Springs, California, and they were doing a routine where basically they went into a building that was currently being demolished, and they paid the construction workers to just go sit by the side. And he went in there with all of the students. He was one of the students, and the master all went in there, and he had them literally kick down concrete pylons that were filled with rebar and everything with their feet, and they were really doing it.
Right.
And my dad was before he got injured, he was one of the best at that.
I remember that. You ever see those Thai fighters that are breaking bats with their shins?
Yeah.
Like 3 baseball bats. Baseball bats, and they just throw their shin right through the bats.
Oh yeah, I saw that at an exhibition in California. I went there and I saw an exhibition with Chuck Norris, and I just remember him because he was a big name, and a bunch of other people were there, and they did that back breaking routine, and they did it multiple different breaks. So there's one where they do it with their shin, and it's a different thing. So you have to go up, and then they go through, and then there's ones where they break it like this. That one hurts. If you don't know what you're doing, that hurts. It hurts worse than this one.
Well, those Thai fighters, I think they got like 8 weapons or something like that, because they include their knees and their elbows.
Yeah.
I watched those Thai fights, and the guy's in the corner, and all of a sudden he flips one of these elbows that comes out of nowhere, and our guy just falls down.
Yep. Yeah, it's a lot harder to back a TIE fighter into the corner.
It's bizarre that someone can take that kind of abuse. It's because they're trained for that. They take the shots to be able to take the shots. The body's amazing.
It is. It absolutely is. I completely agree with you.
We got off on a topic, didn't we?
Yeah.
5:54.
Well, this has been a lot of fun. I mean, normally we're talking about psychedelics, which is really just altered perception, and that is exactly what magic routines are. They're basically, they know how perception works, they know the way that the brain works, and they study that, and then they produce a result.
Well, what's interesting about it, once you understand how something works, then it's easier to be able to participate in it. Like if you understand psychedelics and how they're working, rather than going, oh, that's a drug, that's illegal, you can't take that, you're a drug addict, you're going to be you're going to be addicted. And if you get into that mindset, it's that's what you get. I mean, what is it? Ford said, if you think you can, you think you can't, you're right. Right?
Yeah.
And that's the kind of thing. If you go into utilizing a psychedelic plant medicine, thinking that you're going to have a bad trip because of all these demons and things, that's what you're going to get.
You might talk yourself into that. Yeah. Well, I mean, that's really where you're at with psychedelics specifically. You kind of, when you take it, your mental state plays a lot into what you're going to experience. So if you freak out and you're thinking, oh my gosh, I'm going to see demons, you might see demons because you now just told yourself, oh, I'm probably going to see demons.
Well, that's why when I did it in Costa Rica recently, it was my first experience in something like that, other than I did some water acid as a kid. That it wasn't no spiritual experience. I was just experimenting. That wasn't good. But when I went down to Costa Rica recently, I just want to take this slow. I didn't want to jump into it. There was one guy that did 6 cups of the stuff on his first time ever doing it. He sat down, he did 6 cups.
Yeah, you told me about that. That's nuts. I can't believe they even let him do the 6 nuts. I bet you the shamans were laughing at him.
Yeah, have good luck. But it was interesting because
I did that to somebody before.
When he got
laughed at him.
when he got done with it, because he did the 6 cups and he came back, he didn't feel good about himself. He said, I'm a slob, I'm a glutton. Because he's a little bit of a bigger guy, so he overeats. He said he overdrinks, kind of overdoes stuff. And that was his aha.
And that would have been his aha.
In with all 6. I'm a glutton. I got to chill it out. So he had a sort of a bad experience. And then after that, after he shared all that stuff, he had a good experience.
That's good. Yeah. It's really surprising how much whenever people are going into a situation like that, they actually convince themselves that something is going to happen that they don't necessarily need to convince themselves of. Just, I always tell people before you go into it, you want to eliminate your expectations. You want to breathe. You want to have an idea of what it is that you want to achieve. You want to really just focus on your breath. You want to get that clear mindset, almost like a meditation. And then you do what you need to do at that point, and then everything that you need will come. And that's the biggest trick of it. And set and setting. And I think it's the same thing with stage magic, right? It's all, or sleight of hand. It's all that set and setting, right? You have to set it all up.
Yes, exactly. You have to plant the seeds in the brain to have, like I told a little story about the crystal and the vibration and all that kind of stuff. And that's what gets a person to look at it and go, that might have really disappeared. And that's more magical.
Yeah.
Or if you even tell someone there's nothing in my hands, doesn't mean there isn't anything in my hands.
Right.
There's a routine that I'll talk to you about after, but it's a thing where you hold your hands out like this and you say, if I take my hands like this, look at my hands, take my hands like this and I put my hands together, is there any way that anything can get in or out of my hands? Now, the way that phrasing was, it's not lying.
It's not lying.
No, it's just saying, look at my hands. You won't understand what I'm talking about, because I'm going to share with him after. Because I don't agree with exposing magic secrets in public. And the reason I don't, because this is a short little topic, I'll talk about it. Because if there's any magicians that are watching this thing, I don't agree that you should be sharing magic in public, the secrets. And some people will say, well, how is anybody going to learn if they don't, well, you learn from a mentor or a magic shop or somebody, or else you maybe buy something yourself and invest something into it. You don't just scroll through TikTok and YouTube and start learning the secrets, because most people are exposing the secrets are doing it for views, or they're doing it to boost their egos. And when you share the secret, it's kind of like telling a child that Santa Claus is your dad and ruining it for them. There's no magic left once you expose the secret. So I think it's ruined. It's rude of you magicians that are out there exposing stuff on the internet. You're ruining it for people like my wife that likes to watch magic and experience the magical experience.
Yeah.
There, I said it.
I know tons of magicians who would agree with you. I mean, it's the reason why, as far as magic goes, it's still treated the way that it is throughout the world, is because that's the way the majority of them feel. But there's magicians like the Mass Magician back in the day.
Yeah, he did it for money.
Oh yeah, he did it for money, and he ruined tons of tricks that were out there. And I know based off of, because having lived near Hollywood, you end up meeting people who were part of the film crew or things like that over time. Apparently, he was getting death threats from other magicians on a regular basis.
I heard about that.
Yeah.
Well, I think that, this is another thing for you, any magicians listening out there, especially the dealers, the manufacturers, the guys that do the conventions, people that have magic theaters. I would blackball any magician that is exposing magic publicly. Teach in public, or teach in private, perform in public. That's the way I think it should be done. So anybody that wants to go to the Magic Castle, if they've exposed it, you can't get in.
Yeah.
If you want to come to a magic meeting with the IBM or the SAM or the all the other rings and all that kind of stuff, the magic circle, if you expose magic, you can't get in. You're blackballed. You can't get in.
Right.
Now, there's a fine line between it, because there is an effect called a sucker effect, where you kind of pretend like you're showing how it works, but you're not really. You're kind of making it look like that's how it works.
Sure. I know what you're talking about. I've seen those routines.
That's a different kind of story.
Yeah.
But when you're just blatantly showing people how it works, you're really just boosting your ego and making people think, I know how it works, and I'm going to show you. Anyways.
Yeah. Well, I think it's a different thing too, talking about, because I mentioned earlier about the Chris Angel thing and how they were doing the sheet of glass. Well, I think that's a totally different thing too, because that's not even magic at that point. That's literally just editing.
There is some of that, or it's just like you mentioned, camera 1, camera 2. You like an example. I'm going to make a coin disappear. So I make the coin disappear, and then my partner stomps on this girl's foot, and she goes, ah, and she screams, and you capture that footage. That makes my magic trick look amazing. They just don't show the foot stomp.
Right. It's true.
It's another trick.
Yeah. Okay. I think this was a great format for what we're doing. I wonder if people would like to see more of this in the future. You'll have to follow, and share, and then in the comments tell us if you like seeing more of this.
Okay, I gotta go turn it on.
Peace out. See you all next time.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye. And